Hi, my name is Bradley Smith, and I am an engineer of Sterling Rope. I am here today to show you how to open your rope and to store your rope at home and at the crag. So when you first get your Sterling rope, it's going to come one of two ways, either in a standard factory coil or in our Send Ready coil, made with Sterling Send Ready coil machine to make it a little bit easier to uncoil when you're getting it straight from the factory. This one here is in a standard factory coil. So first, we can go ahead and take the belly wrap off the rope. And then from there, you're gonna go ahead and take off the straps, carefully not unraveling the rope at all while you're doing that. And that's gonna keep the rope from getting kinks in it and knots. Take the instructions for use out, has important information about the rope. We're gonna carefully take both of these straps off. Okay, you wanna find the end of the rope that is in the center of the factory coil. And that's gonna help with making sure this rope is not gonna get kinked up as you're uncoiling it for the first time. We're just very carefully going to take each coil out of this factory coil from the inside out. You can use either a tarp or a bucket while you're doing this to contain the rope and keep it in a nice, neat pile. Now you have your rope perfectly uncoiled in your bucket and you are ready to climb. So once you've unpackaged your rope, it's time to learn about how to properly store your rope when it's at home or at the crag. You want to be careful to make sure that you're not storing your rope in direct sunlight or near any harsh chemicals. When you're at the crag, you also want to make sure that it's either on a tarp or in some type of bucket or container, something that's going to keep it off dirt and debris and keep that from getting on your rope. Stuff like dirt and debris can damage your rope, but it can also damage your belay device, other hardware, and fixed hardware on routes as well, which will in turn damage ropes more. So you want to be very careful about that. Next up, we're going to go over inspecting your rope before and after use. Here are two ropes. This is one that's new, and this is one that's used. When you're inspecting your rope, you want to make sure you go over the full length of the rope and feel for any differences in diameter, excessive fraying, and you can also use a pinch test to help you determine the integrity of the rope. With this blue rope here, you can clearly tell that there's a difference in the diameter of the rope, and the blue rope is noticeably larger than the green rope. There's a lot of fraying on the rope, and when I'm pinching the rope, it's substantially different than when I do that with the green rope, indicating that this blue rope definitely needs to be retired. You don't need all of these criteria to retire a rope. If there's just excessive fraying or the rope is just a different feel, that could be enough to indicate that your rope might need to be retired. As we continue to go over inspection of your rope, we want to go over examples of what normal wear looks like. When you're looking at normal wear on your rope, you might expect a little bit of fraying on the sheath, maybe a small change in the diameter of your rope, but it shouldn't be significant. The rope is largely still similar to what it was when it's new, definitely in serviceable condition. When you're looking to determine when a rope might need to be retired, there are some cases where it's very clearly damaged. If the core is showing, core is popping out of the sheath, rope definitely needs to be retired. There might be some instances though where it might not be quite as obvious. This is a portion of rope that does have quite a bit more fraying, but it's not as obvious. The sheath's not really popping out. But if I do squeeze this rope here, you can tell that the core and the rope there is definitely damaged. And if I go just a little bit over here, I can tell that that's a lot different, indicating that this portion over here needs to be cut out or the rope itself needs to be retired depending on where this spot is in the rope. While inspecting your rope, you might also come across some bumps in the rope. These are perfectly normal. They are air splices where the sheath has been connected, often seen in bi-pattern ropes to change the pattern over. It's not a safety concern, and it's a normal part of the rope construction. Now that we've gone over rope inspection, we want to go over some potential things that might be able to damage your rope. Your rope could be damaged by sharp edges on rocks, could also be damaged by sharp edges on your equipment, whether it be your belay device, quick draws, or other hardware you have. With belay devices, you want to make sure that any part that the rope might be contacting doesn't have a sharp edge on it. This is a gree-gree, where you have this edge right here, where the rope is contacting it. We also have the cam mechanism inside the gree-gree where the rope is going to be running through. We want to make sure that there aren't any sharp edges on there, and you also want to make sure you're cleaning it so there's no dirt or debris in there that's going to be rubbing against your rope while you're belaying. That could definitely damage your rope. With other belay devices as well, such as a tube style belay device, you want to make sure, similar to the gree-gree, that there aren't any sharp edges where the rope is going to contact this belay device, whether it be here, inside the tube, or on the bottom here. If you do drop your belay device, or any hardware, there's a chance that it might get a notch in it that might be able to damage your rope, so you want to make sure you're inspecting them. With quick draws, you want to make sure that the portion that the rope is going over is nice and smooth, and that it's not getting too deep of a groove. If that groove gets too deep, it could potentially damage the rope. You also want to make sure that you're using the same side for the bolt every time, and you're using the same side for the rope every time. When the carabiner goes against the bolt hanger, it's going to make a groove that could potentially damage the rope. This is also important with permanent quick draws that you might find either at a gym or outside. You want to make sure that there aren't sharp edges on there, and you don't know when the last person has inspected that equipment, so that's just something to be mindful of. In addition to sharp edge cutting your rope, you also want to be aware of dirt, debris, and chemicals, which can also be harmful to your rope. Dirt and debris, which can get in your rope if you're not using a rope tarp or a bucket or something to keep your rope out of the dirt, is definitely going to wear your rope down faster as it's going to get into the fibers of the rope. It's also going to grind down hardware and, in return, wear your rope out faster as well. With chemicals, you want to be aware that there are other chemicals that could potentially be damaging to your rope, so just in general, you want to keep all chemicals away from the rope. If you're not going to put it on your skin, you don't want it on your rope. Now we'll go over the life expectancy of your rope. Depending on what terrain the rope is used in and the way the rope is used, the rope is going to last a different amount of time. If someone's using the rope every day, that rope might last a year or less. If someone's using that rope only at the weekends, you might expect a little bit longer lifespan, maybe 2 or 3 years, but it could be less. If you're using the rope more intermittently than that, you might expect a longer lifespan. The longest lifespan a rope can possibly have is 10 years from the manufacture date, which you can find on the rope end label. And you want to keep track of how old your rope is and how much it's been used. It is important to note that ropes could get damaged even the first time you have them out. You could wreck that rope in a single use, or it could last you a long time, depending on the use and depending on different environmental factors, what terrain you're climbing on. If you're climbing in an area that has really, really sharp edges, you could damage your rope very fast. If during your inspection you find an isolated damaged section of your rope near the end of your rope, you can cut that section out so you can still use the rest of the rope that's not damaged. To do this, you want a flat, hard surface, a lighter, a knife, and some tape. Take a few meters from the section that is damaged and identify the section you want to cut. Cut a piece of tape, wrap that tape around the area you want to cut. You want to make sure that this tape is tight around the rope. Next, you can take a sharp knife and apply pressure, and you can cut the rope. And tape is very important here because it keeps the fibers from unraveling after you cut it. Once you've cut your rope, you can use a lighter to fuse the fibers so they don't come unraveled and the core or the sheath doesn't come out from the rope. You can confirm that you've done these correctly by gently tapping on the end of the rope you fused together, and if it's hard like plastic, you know that it's completely fused and it's ready to use. Just make sure you do this in a well-ventilated environment. To increase the lifespan of your rope, you want to make sure you're keeping your rope out of dirt and debris. You can do this by using a rope tarp or a rope bucket. If your rope does get dirty though, you want to make sure you're cleaning it, because dirt and debris can definitely damage your rope. As you can see here, this rope is quite dirty, and when I run my hand along it, there's a lot of dirt on my hand. To clean your rope, you can either hand wash it or you can put it in a washing machine by daisy chaining the rope and using a delicate cycle. You want to make sure you're using warm to hot water with a mild detergent, such as Sterling's Rope Wash. Once you've washed your rope, you can hang your rope up to dry in a cool, shady place. You want to make sure not to dry your rope in direct sunlight, and you definitely don't want to dry your rope in a dryer as this will damage the rope. Once your rope is completely clean and dry, you're ready to get back to climbing. See you at the crag.